Hi, I'm Richard Perry with Chief Automotive. I'm going to show you the proper setup and ease of usage of our MI200T. First thing that needs to be done is the reservoir for the coolant needs to be filled. It takes 8 gallons and it must be used with a TIG coolant fluid in order to operate the machine properly. Each time the technician goes to run the machine, once it's been filled up, there's a window on the side of the machine that allows the technician to see how much fluid is in the system at all times. If the fluid is low, they need to add some additional fluid before operating the system. Next, we want to make sure that the machine is plugged into the proper 3-phase outlet. Plug the air hose into the fitting in the back of the machine, and then flip the switch in the back to turn the machine on. Once the system's turned on, there's 4 operating modes to weld from. The first one being the auto mode. Across the top it tells you you're in the auto mode. The center button allows you to change from one mode to the next. We have an up arrow, down arrow to navigate, and then a plus or minus to also navigate. The second mode, by hitting the mode button, takes you into the standard mode. Press the mode button again, takes you into the manual mode. And the fourth mode takes you into multi-sheets if you want to identify each sheet. We'll go through each one of these. Let's start off with auto mode. In this mode, it automatically detects the type of material and the thickness. The only thing we have to do is input which arm we're using. When the system's turned on, the first one that pops up is a C1. In order to change, we're going to simply hit the plus or the minus to navigate to a C2 up to a C11 arm. We choose the proper arm and we're ready to calibrate this system. Let's take a look at the next mode, which is our standard mode. So by pressing the mode button, takes us to the standard mode where we can actually select the thickness of the material using the plus or minus symbols. So we can change from a 0.60 to a 0.85 or whatever the thickness of the material is. The up and down arrow will take us to the next selection, the steel. So in this mode we can actually select, using the plus or minus, the different types of steel that we're welding. Using the up and down arrow, we can go down to arm selection. And at this point we would do the same thing as auto mode, making sure that we've selected the proper arm that's installed on the gun by doing plus or minus to select those. The next mode, we use the mode button to select manual mode. When using the manual mode, it should be only used with proper OEM repair specifications. We can come in and set the time that's needed for that weld. We can come in and set the tip force that's needed for that weld. And again, selecting the proper arm. While in the manual mode, another great feature is we can actually save that setting that you've created for that vehicle. On the right-hand side of the screen, we can go in and actually save that and create a folder for that vehicle. Once we've set the parameters for that vehicle, we can come in and hit save, and that's going to allow us to type in a name for that folder. Using the plus and minus and up and down arrows, you could type in something like HA for Honda Accord if you wanted to, or type out the entire word. Once you type the name in, we'll hit back to mode, and that's going to give us a listing of all the files that we have saved. In order to get to the preset files that we've already saved, we go into the manual mode, and from the manual mode, on the bottom right hand side where we have memory, we select File. Now that'll pull up the settings we've already had saved. The next mode is for multi-layer. So anytime you have multi-sheets of metal, this is where you can come in and select this. The first one being your first layer metal, you can use the plus or minus button to select that thickness. Use the arrow, it drops down to what type of steel that selection is. Plus or minus, high strength, ultra high strength, boron, and regular steel, mild steel. Use the up and down arrow, drop down to the next layer of metal, choose the thickness of that by your plus or minus, and that's a 1 millimeter thick material. And let's say that's high strength steel. We use the drop down arrow, select steel plus high strength steel. If it has a third layer, we can come down and input that type of material as well. The button on the left-hand side of the screen that looks like a hand performs several functions. The first function is by holding it down for 2 seconds, allows you to escape out of any mode that you're in and takes you back to the auto mode. This button also takes you into what we call the service mode. By pressing it down once, you'll see the gun with a wrench next to it. This mode needs to be engaged anytime an arm's being replaced or changed out. What this does is it turns the pump off, which eliminates any of the fluid flow. By hitting that button one more time, takes us into the standard single side mode. That mode allows us to use the single side gun when it's installed. By holding the mode button down for several seconds, will take you into some additional settings that we offer. By using the up and down arrow, you'll find language, date and time that can be changed, the beep that's set, pressure control, identification, glue, car manufacturer mode, auto mode, energy mode, standard mode, and multi-mode. These are either turned off or turned on by the factory. You can adjust those by simply coming over using the plus and minus to move over, and then the arrow up or down to either engage or disengage that mode. And that's how simple it is to run through and navigate each of these modes and set up the welder.